Today was likely Humankind's busiest day, full of announcements, releases, and surprises we've ever seen. Let me try and bring you up to speed. Firstly, it started at the Summer Games Fest very early this morning with this high-energy, high-impact trailer. It was, of course, announcing, as you can see, that Humankind is officially coming to console on November 4th. Very exciting news. As I understand it from what we've seen in the trailer, Humankind is coming to PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, and the most recent 3 Xboxes. And also, of course, it'll be a part of the Xbox Game Pass as well. Just as it is already for PC, now it appears it'll be stringing itself through and out into console as well. Great news for console players, but not the only piece of Humankind news we received today. In fact, far from it. We also, of course, have some new cultures, both free and paid, as well as an update and a few other things to go along with it. Some nice surprises. Next, we have the Cultures of Latin America pack, as you can see, with the Carolans in the Ancient Era, the Nazca Natural Wonder Lovers in the Classical Era, Taino in Medieval, Inca in the Early Modern, one of my personal favorites, the Argentinians with their beef in the Industrial Era, and the Cubans with their pharmaceutical pill luxury in the final era of Humankind. And don't forget the Mississippians, the new builder culture added to the Third Era for free, was also rolled out today. That came about because of our efforts to build something like 2 million builder stars or something over the last couple of weeks. The medieval era, of note, now is a really difficult decision point. You have Taino and the Mississippians, two new cultures if you've bought the DLC and got the Mississippians for free. And of course we have Swahili from the Cultures of Africa, the first expansion for Humankind. There are loads of picks in this era that are brilliant. In this video, by the way, I'll bounce us through a few of the new cultures and changes, natural wonders. There's lots to go through, but it's important to note just quickly that in this specific clip, I started playing as the Harappans, and then I started playing as the Mississippians to try and really maximize the river bonuses. Now, we also received this big wall of text, the Bolivar update. I'll cover the specific details of it slightly later in the video, but it's important to note that this is the same Humankind patch update that I've been playing on stream and that you may have been playing as well, that was released in a beta version in May, and I think it dragged through into the start of June as well. So largely it's the same. However, as I understand it, there were a few sort of tweaks and finalizations and changes and a couple of extra things perhaps. We'll go through the details regardless to bring either everybody up to speed or cover off anything extra that we need to slightly later in the piece. Another big thing that was announced today, and I'm not sure if it's still running or not, because I can't check, because I've already got it. So if somebody could let me know, I would really appreciate that in the comments below. I suspect it's no longer a thing, but it would be unjust of me not to mention the fact that Amplitude also gave away 1,000, not just 10 or 100, but 1,000 keys for the Cultures of Latin America DLC for free on the Games Together forums. That's the official Humankind forums. So I doubt that they'd still be available. 1,000 sounds like a lot, but after talking about it on our members Discord, I posted on the YouTube channel page, we were talking about it on the live stream, I'd be very surprised if they're still left. But either way, I think it actually signals a really cool move from Amplitude, and hopefully loads of you managed to pick it up for free. The update also brought some additional changes and updates, particularly focused around AI improvements, but there were a few other details buried in there as well that we'll go through. This was all of the news in a nutshell. It's taken me nearly 4 minutes just to cover it off at the high level. As you can tell, it was a pretty big day today for Humankind, Friday the 10th of June. As Humankind nears its 1-year anniversary, I was really pleased to see not only arguably the best patch update we've ever seen, accompanied by a free culture, a paid culture pack, and then finally a teaser for a console release. Really good news. Let's jump in a little bit then and talk about specifically how Humankind game has changed. How's my gameplay changed? Of course, the most significant change likely comes from the Cultures of Latin America DLC. This is the paid DLC that was added on top of the Mississippians and the Bolivar update. As you saw at the start of the video, we have 6 new cultures, but more than that, we also have 2 new cultural wonders, those that we can build. The pyramid that you're seeing here in the second era, and then a stadium, which I'll show you soon in the final era, and also 4 new natural wonders will be appearing in the world. I'll show you what I've managed to find of them so far a little bit later as well. In fact, right now, wham, bam, thank you, bam, look at those salt flats. Moving along, though, alongside that, of course, we have the Mississippians as well. They are free, and as I mentioned earlier, they're sort of really adding a lot of power and intrigue into the medieval era for humankind. The Mississippians are river lovers. Their units ignore river penalties, and food, industry, and money districts built on rivers will receive +3 of their respective yields. And they're a builder culture, just to really sweeten the deal. I think it's a very exciting suite of changes. A lot of the cultures that were added in the Cultures of Latin America DLC also have a very unique flair to them. Inca, for example, in the 4th era, really have a strong and powerful adjacency to mountains with their terrace farm, as you would expect. It's unique. Very few cultures do that already. Nice to see. Then we have the final 2 cultures, which much like the Soviets have already done in the game with their specific arms factory and their specific luxury resource that they can create, these cultures can do the same with beef and pills. That's right. The Argentinians provide salted beef, and the Cubans will provide their impressive pharmaceutical building. Both of those create new luxuries in the world that can, I believe, be purchased by the AI, but more importantly, will provide you with varying levels of stability from 4 to 10 each. And the Argentinians' beef will also reduce army upkeep. And there are a few other oddities and bonuses hidden throughout all of them. But the message that I'm trying to convey here is that the cultures are different. It's not necessarily that we've taken, say, the Egyptians and then changed that formula into food, called it something else and released it. They have a unique flair and flavor. Perhaps the best example is Nazca in the 2nd era. They, if you control a territory with a natural wonder, allow you to build 2 of your emblematic districts in that territory instead of 1. That's their trait as well, so you keep it for the rest of the game. You could probably do some crazy things with adjacencies and bonuses and add-ons, and I think overall as well, it'll help to really shape the replayability of Humankind. When you add 1 extra culture into every era, 2 in the medieval era, you create an insane number of combinations I couldn't even fathom. And with our new glorious stadium in the background, let's talk about the key changes from the patch update itself. Obviously, we have big changes to the war system. Voluntary forced surrender. No longer. Wars can continue when war support reaches 0. War support gains and losses are now affected by losses in battle of units, influence over territory, so your cultural influence, as well as pillaging or ransacking enemy districts. War support is not reset to 0 anymore after a peace deal is concluded either, so any remnants will be left over. That's a neat additional change. And pollution, on a slightly different note, is now deactivated by default when creating a game. You can still turn the negative effects of pollution back on, I should say, when you're setting up your game, but by default, they'll be turned off. Outside of that, we also had some settings change around how the actual game plays. Civic unlock conditions are now transparent, displayed in tooltips. Natural wonders have unique effects. You've already seen that in this video, but it makes the world of a difference, honestly. It makes them more exciting. It adds a little bit more randomness and overall interest and intrigue to the game as well, I think. Cities themselves are easier to use and look slightly prettier. Their administrative centers can be upgraded. Stability, surplus, and deficit is now displayed more easily and readily, so we can actually understand that really clearly, and infrastructure gains as well. We now are told on the tooltip how much industry will get from building a furnace or whatever it may be. Those are the key changes that have come in, aside from one big one. A couple of smaller things around the edges, though, that I should mention here. Mod configuration of the latest save is now loaded automatically. That's a wonderful sort of quality of life change. Loads of quality of life changes, actually, in this update, if you think about it. Think about the how the infrastructure is displayed and all kinds of other things. And then they also made specific note of other additions and changes in the patch notes. Here it is here, if you'd like to read through it and pause or whatever yourself. But essentially, the things that I'd really like to highlight here are a couple of small things, like you can change the frequency of when the DLC content appears in the settings, kind of nice. But more importantly, changes to the AI. AI is improved significantly. The way it chooses cultures in the early to mid-game. The way it plans certain districts, air forces, airfields, garrison behavior. How it accepts and improves and handles peace, war declarations, and overall, how and where it sends its units. It's a much smarter AI, and it feels it. It really does. I've noticed that the game has presented a similar level of difficulty that it used to on Humankind for me, now maybe around 1, maybe even 2 difficulty levels lower. There'll be more to explore, of course, and I'll need to learn how it behaves. And I acknowledge that there could be that difference playing out. But overall, I think it's a really solid update. Not just to the difficulty, not just to the new cultures, not just to the UI changes, but of course, all of the other things that were announced today. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully I've brought some clarity to the trifecta of Humankind updates that we heard, received, or were announced today. And I will see you very soon, likely tomorrow, for another Humankind live stream right here on YouTube and Twitch. Bye, everybody.